All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Reston Letters April edition of our podcast. Today I'm here with Rachel Rozner, who's the owner of the brand new Eldon Street Tea Shop. Well, not brand new, new to Reston Tea Shop. And then Kristina Alcorn, who is the subject of Chuck's Making an Impact column this month. So thank you both for joining me. We're just going to go over a few topics and questions that will hopefully, for anyone listening, give you a little bit more bigger picture about or of these two lovely Reston women. So I'm going to start off with Rachel, who's in the middle of opening her business, so she can only talk for a little while. But Rachel, you have a feature that's going to be in this issue in April, all about your shop. But I was hoping you could give, and I will admit I have not read the article that Iman wrote yet. So I was just hoping for a little of your background, history, why tea? I mean, tea's great, but tell us all about that. And kind of your mission, I guess, what keeps you trucking, all that.
Sure. So starting from the beginning, I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life. I started a business making custom foot orthotics. I've since retired from that. I'm what you call a certified podorthist, and I used to make custom foot orthotics, custom shoes. I used to work, that business got me to the NIH, where I worked there for 7 years doing that. Seeing all kinds of amazing things, helping amazing people with very rare and interesting cases.
Uh-oh, you turned yourself off there. Oh, there.
No, my phone rang.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Unfortunately, doing that drive to Bethesda from Herndon for 7 years was kind of soul sucking. So
I
I
bet.
decided that I wanted to try something new, start a new leaf, if you will,
Ooh.
turn a new leaf. So I know, I'm a town resident of Herndon, and I wanted to see small, if you've ever been to historic town of Herndon, it's kind of like this cute, quaint vibe.
It is.
And I wanted to contribute to that. I wanted to grow help participate in growing the downtown and bringing more people to this amazing little community that is the
Mhm.
town of Herndon. And so I wanted originally to start a bulk good supply store. So there's a store in Philadelphia that I wanted to work with. Unfortunately, they don't franchise out of the Philadelphia area. So I knew the best thing I knew out of that was tea. Um, and so I focused on tea. I am not a coffee drinker. I never have been. I think maybe one time a year I'll have coffee. I don't know why, but I just feel it. And so I decided to focus on loose leaf tea, which is what I've known best. I love going to afternoon tea. I love the community aspect, the communication aspect of it. All of those things just lend themselves to a great place to start a tea house in the town of Herndon. So that's how I started. We started as a pop-up in an art space, Herndon. We had about 70 square feet and a little pop-up, and we sold loose leaf tea, and we made little cups of tea and pots of tea, and we did board games and tea on Saturdays there while we were waiting for our space to be finished.
Oh, cool.
The space that we were supposed to be in was on Eldon Street. We had marketed it for Eldon Street. And then at the last minute, we decided, because they were taking too long, people were starting to lose interest in what we were doing. People have like a threshold. So we decided to move to a different location, one street behind on Pine Street. And that street, and so I done all this marketing for Eldon Street, and I figured Eldon Street is a pretty iconic street in Herndon. It's, a big thing for historically for them. So I decided to just keep the name. And so we were there for 6 years or 5 years. And then Unfortunately, our lease terms didn't work out. So we ended up having to find another space,
Mhm.
which is why we ended up at Lake Anne. But I love Lake Anne. I am here all the time. I was here when I wasn't at the tea shop. It was my place to go run away and hide and go work, without interruption. And I'm also friends with a lot of the business owners here. I would say probably about 90% of the businesses here are owned by women. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so oh sorry, when I say here, I'm at Lake Anne right now. So
Yeah.
I always joke that it's like I was moving into my sorority house because I'm friends with a lot of the women here, and it's where I like to be. So
It's the perfect
yeah,
space. I feel like you've got
yeah.
coffee and wine, you've got the books, you've got the beer,
You get
right? And now
chocolate.
you've got the chocolate,
Yeah,
you've got the tea. It's perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got cycling and you got
Yeah.
paddleboarding and you got the lake and the
The
beautiful
museum. Yeah,
the
the museum,
museum, all of it, the bookstore.
bookstore.
I mean, I'm so excited to get to know the bookstore because there's nothing
Oh,
better
it's
than
the
books and tea.
best.
So,
They're great. Yeah.
yeah, so we were excited to move here. And so we're here now. And we had looked at other spaces, but something in my being was like, go here. It
Mm.
felt right, even though
Yeah.
it was kind of a mess.
Mhm.
It's becoming less of a mess, but it was I'm always up for a challenge, and kind of that's kind of it wasn't a hard no for me to pass on a place that needed a little bit of love. So.
Mhm. So do you grow herbs and things like that?
I mean, like with my at home, yeah,
Yeah,
like
but
yeah,
okay.
no, but not for the shop. No,
Yeah.
mm-mm. We don't
Okay.
grow our own tea. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
We
I'm
do our
just
own blends of tea. So we take different blends of tea and make our own custom blends and stuff.
Mhm.
But we don't grow tea.
Are you
Not
gonna make
right
a
now, but maybe.
you're gonna make a Lake Anne brew?
We
Should we?
are, yes, yes. I have a Herndon breakfast, so
Ah,
We'll have to make a Lake and equivalent for sure.
yeah. Oh, that'd be very cool. All right, awesome. Now, can you tell us about, so this isn't going to air till after Founders Day. I know you're going to be open,
Mhm.
but about the tea festival, and then are you opening tomorrow? Or are you opening, I guess,
Well, we are opening for just an open house for Founders Day, so people can come in, meet us, like a meet and greet, have a
Mhm.
seat in the shop. But we're not serving anything. We're just kind of doing like little samples,
Got
but
it.
nothing. There's no food or anything like that. We're still waiting on our some of our licenses and things like that, so we're not ready to
Okay.
to do that part yet. But hopefully the following week we will be open for business. The tea festival will be May 4th, and it's going to
Okay.
be right on the plaza.
Okay.
It's a big festival. We have approximately 40 vendors right now, and it's
Wow.
all it's all afternoon tea and tea enthusiasts. If you're a tea enthusiast, it's the place to be. We have businesses that are coming from Ohio. We have businesses that are coming from Pennsylvania, from Maryland, from Southern Virginia. Many of our vendors from last year, and local ones too. So we have a lot of different businesses that are involved with this, either
Wow.
loose leaf tea related or tea adjacent pottery, tea accessories, all kinds of stuff like that. If you're a tea person, we're going to be doing like tea ceremonies, a Japanese tea ceremony, Korean tea ceremony. We're going to talk about the history of tea, women's rights involved with the history of tea,
My gosh.
a whole bunch of different what to look for when you're antiquing for tea. And a lot of the businesses around here are getting involved as well. Doing Lake Anne Brew House is going to do a tea brew tasting. Chesapeake Chocolates is doing a chocolate and tea pairing.
Mm.
I think the
Ooh.
Own Bake is going to do their CBD tea. And then even the tattoo place is going to have tea, quick pick tea, tattoos that people can get
Oh,
if they feel
nice.
so inclined. Yeah.
Are you going to get one?
I don't know. I'll see where my spirit takes me that day.
So are these just people you've come to know over the years of being in the tea industry? I mean, you got people coming from everywhere. How do you know these people? A special
I
community?
don't. I mean, some I do know. I'm part of the Mid-Atlantic Tea Association.
Mhm.
It's a tea association that involves like New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York. I think we have North Carolina as well. But it's not limited to the Mid-Atlantic. We also have tea businesses. If somebody moves, they still want to be a part of the association. We have
Mhm.
businesses that are in California, the
Wow.
Bahamas, New
Mhm.
York, like all over the place. And so I know a lot of the tea places from there, but a lot of the places that came from to the tea festival last year were actually businesses I hadn't heard from. And we have a influx of them this year as well.
Huh.
And it's really cool. Some of the business, sometimes you go to like local artist events and you kind of see the same local artists, but this one you're going to see vendors from all over. And I think that's really special. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Okay, awesome. Well, I look forward to that and to learning more about your shop and drinking your tea. I do like tea. I'm not a big black tea, like caffeinated tea fan, but I do
No
love
worries.
the herbals, peppermint
Yeah.
tea. Love it.
I mean, I go in influx. I really don't drink black tea anymore either. I mostly drink like white tea and herbal tea,
Mhm.
and green tea. But sometimes I'll drink my black tea too if I need like a really good
Hmm.
kick.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the tea shop, we'll be doing afternoon tea service. We'll have it every day. If you have groups of larger than 5, then we need reservation. But we also have different tea themed events. We have the tea festival. You can come in for a pot of tea and just read. One of the fun things we're going to do every day is what we call a non-power hour. And so we'll power down, except for our register, but there won't be any use of cell phones or electronics in the shop for that hour.
Oh, I
So
love that.
except for
You have to
Kindles. If
talk
people
to
read on a
people.
Kindle, they
Yeah.
can read. Yeah, so you can come and read a book, work on a project, meet and talk with somebody,
Mhm.
do something else than being on your phone.
I
So
love that.
Sounds
yeah.
wonderful.
Mhm.
So that's it. That's what we're planning. That's what we're starting starting out with, I guess.
Mhm. Well, I think I'm sure you have been already welcomed by the community. And
Absolutely. This has been a very welcoming community. I love it.
yeah. Awesome. Well, Rachel, if you need to run, go feel free. And thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dawn. I really
Yep.
appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing your article and writing maybe some tea related
Yes.
articles for
Yes.
the
Yes,
Reston
for
letter as
sure.
well.
Yes, tea reviews. Yeah. And we are starting this month doing a calendar for the next few
Awesome.
weeks, and just like you can just write in. If actually I wrote down, I'm gonna put your I'm gonna put your tea festival on the upcoming
That's
calendar.
great. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right.
I'll
Well, it's
see you
nice
later.
meeting you, Christina. I'm sorry
Nice
I
to
don't
meet
get to
you,
stay on
Rachel.
much longer, but hopefully I'll get to see you in some other way
I'll,
in Reston.
I'll see you at Founders Day for sure.
All right, awesome. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Or I guess I will have seen you at Founders Day.
Well, yes, yes, true. Oh my goodness, that must be so hectic.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I walked past last week, Sunday, and wow, there's a lot of work to
Mhm.
do. I can't
Yeah,
even imagine.
yeah, I know. Yep. A lot going on. Okay, so Christina, I did read the article Chuck wrote about you, which was very nice. Um, and tell the listeners about yourself. It's awesome that you grew up in Reston. So jump right in, I guess. What was it like? How has it changed?
Oof, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
We got here, I was going into second grade. So I always get confused about the date, but I think it was like 74.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in Stratton Woods, and I went to Dogwood. And I remember childhood as being that, 70s, free range,
Mhm.
out all day, came home when somebody's mom put the porch light on.
Yeah.
They didn't know what we were doing. They weren't worried about what we were doing,
Mhm.
yeah, just on our bikes and tromping through fields and creeks and catching
Mhm.
frogs. And,
Mhm.
it was just, it was pretty wild. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Uh-huh. That's awesome. So you went, you moved to Arlington, that's what I read.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what can you compare a little bit there and what brought you back to?
Sure. Yeah, after college, lived in a couple different group houses in Arlington. And it was great. It was a great place to be as a young person. There was a lot of
Mhm.
nightlife, a lot of action. It certainly felt more like a city than
Mhm.
Reston.
Yeah.
But when my husband Walter and I were getting married, and we met at SAIC. So we worked together and our office
Mhm.
was in Reston. And when we were getting married, I'm like, why don't we just live in Reston?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was coming from Arlington, had been in Vienna.
Mhm.
And so we found a place in Edgewater condos right there at Barron Cameron and Bennington Woods. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm bad at directions.
Mhm.
Anyway, right by the hospital. And
Okay.
we loved it. It was so great. It was so close to everything. But what's funny is it was long enough ago that the development of town center basically stopped at I don't know, like Clyde's, and then there was like all open field.
Yes, I
And
remember that
yeah, and
big
when
parking
we
lot.
yep, we had our first child Ryan when we were living there, and I would take him out, in the stroller, and I was walking like on the west side of town center, but it was just a field, and there was a man walking an elephant. And I
No.
was like, what is going on?
What?
There was some circus that they were putting up, and they put up
Really?
a tent, and I don't know what circus it was. I don't think it was Cirque du Soleil or anything fancy. I don't remember.
Wow.
I had a young child. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know
Oh,
if I
I
was
bet
hallucinating.
he loved it. You
But
couldn't you couldn't fit an elephant at town center now.
no, you certainly couldn't. But it was, yeah, no, it was much more wide open. We, we loved living there, but being up on the third floor and carrying, the
Mhm.
baby seat all the way up
Mhm.
led us to look for another neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I had been on a walk with my mom's group just along on the trails, and we walked along behind where we live now in
Mhm.
the North Point area.
Mhm.
And I just saw this neighborhood and it was full of kids and moms. And we started looking for a house. One of these townhouses was the first place I looked. And
Mhm.
I just looked at it. I'm like, we'll take it.
Yeah.
I didn't look at anything else.
It's a
And
great spot.
oh, it's the best. I mean, we've been here
Mhm.
for 23 years.
Wow.
And yeah, we just have the best neighborhood and the best neighbors. I mean, you talk about the difference between Arlington and Reston, and yeah, they were very different times of my life, but the
Mhm.
community in Reston, I've never seen it anywhere else,
Mhm.
and I felt it growing up here, and I was able to give that to my kids here as well. I mean, all over Reston, but especially in our neighborhood. I mean, we're in and out of each other's houses, raising
Mhm.
each other's kids,
Yeah.
spending Halloween and Easter and Christmas together. It was
Yeah.
great place to raise kids.
Yes, I agree. Um, so, oh, so the Making an Impact column Chuck has been writing since the summer. Was he your teacher?
No, but I certainly
No.
knew him at South Lake.
Okay, okay, so that was so funny.
Everybody
Everybody
knew
knew Chuck,
Mr.
yeah.
Cascio.
Yes.
When we became reacquainted, I don't know, like maybe 5, 6 years ago, because we both had books coming out at the same time, and we'd end up at a lot of the same book signings. And so we just got to talking. And of course, I knew who he was. He didn't know who I was,
Yeah.
other than a student
Mhm.
at South Lakes. And to make that switch to calling him Chuck is
Yeah. Yeah, I still have students who are, graduated who still they're like, I can't call you Dawn. You're still Mrs. Brosnan. It's funny. So your book, So I read you met Bob Simon, and then talk about your book, and about how
Yeah,
that came to
yeah,
be.
yeah. Well, it's funny because I grew up here in Reston, and as a kid, everybody knew about the founder,
Mm-hmm.
knew who Bob Simon was. Nobody knew him. You might have a sighting of him at Reston Festival or something, and
Mm-hmm.
you're a kid, you're not gonna necessarily go up and talk to him. And then I just found myself sitting next to him at an event, and
Mm-hmm.
still kind of felt like that kid, you know,
Yeah.
seeing the
Celebrity.
local celebrity, the founder of Reston.
Mm-hmm.
And he was
Mm-hmm.
just so charming and just telling stories, and I was just sitting there kind of in awe listening. And these
Mm-hmm.
weren't even Reston stories, these were
Yeah.
stories owning Carnegie Hall and being
Mm-hmm.
in World War II and, dancing in a bombed out ballroom with some ingenue. I mean, these
Oh.
stories were just, I was just, enraptured.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, something just like bubbled up in me. And I said, has anybody recorded your stories? And he said, nope. And I said, can I? And he said, sure.
Yeah.
And he gave me his number. And I
Mm-hmm.
called him the next day and he said, oh, you're serious. I'm like, yeah, totally serious. Which
Mm-hmm.
I would learn later. People were always coming to him with ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
not many people followed through, or I
Yep.
think anybody followed through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went over the first day. I had this little old tape recorder because this
Mm-hmm.
was this was 1997.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have voice memos or anything. So it was
Yeah.
very rudimentary. And I had my tapes, my 90
Mm.
minute.
Oh, yeah.
And I went over the first day and he's like, okay, what are we doing? And I said, I don't know. I wasn't thinking of writing a book. I just wanted those stories preserved in some way because
Yeah.
they were precious to me. They were just amazing. And so I said, I just want to record them. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. And he's like, all right. And so, yeah, we met for the next 2 years. We would meet like one week, and it was so fun. Just
Mm-hmm.
it was like getting a master class in the 20th century because,
Wow.
he lived it. He saw
Mm-hmm.
every change that,
Yeah.
as a young child, he toured through war-torn Europe after World War I.
Mm-hmm.
He lived through Prohibition and the Depression and World War II and the Civil Rights movement and the
Mm-hmm.
internet and everything. So he
Mm-hmm.
he saw it all. And so anyway, I would sit with him, press play, and he would just talk about whatever he wanted to talk about. It was not chronological.
Oh,
He'd
yeah.
somewhere and he'd jump over here and he'd go back and forth and his eyes would just light up. I could tell he was back wherever he
Mm-hmm.
was telling
Yeah.
his stories. And I remember he would often say, he's like, oh, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but let me tell you this story.
Oh.
And I loved every second of it. And so then I would go back and transcribe, what we had done. And then I would go back like the next week with the transcription and with a bunch of questions because there were things I
Mhm.
didn't know. And
Mhm.
he didn't like that part of it at all.
Oh, he didn't want to
He didn't
explain
like
himself.
nope, he didn't like the details, I mean, he
Wow.
had an amazing memory. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was, oh, don't make me do math, but he was in his late 80s when we met. But he remembered he was in a singing trio in like middle school, and he remembered the names of all the people. And oh, this guy was a baritone, this guy was the
Wow.
tenor. And he remembered what
Uh-huh.
they sang, and he would sing the songs
Mm-hmm.
that he sang with them. And so it was just a lot of hanging out, hearing
Uh-huh.
his stories. And yeah, I mean, I compiled them all. And the last tape, the last interview we had, not that it was planning to be the last one, but the next day I went into labor with Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And having a baby just put everything on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And it sat there for a long time. But Bob and I and Bob and our family, we stayed very close. And so
Mm-hmm.
even though the book project wasn't happening, we spent a lot of time together and
Mm-hmm.
just had a beautiful friendship. And he was just the best. And it was
Mm-hmm.
so funny if you were out like at Lake Anne with him, say you went to Montmartre for lunch and
Mm-hmm.
or you were meeting him at Montmartre. This like one of the last times I had lunch with him. He was supposed to meet me. I got there, I was waiting, And I see him, he had a Cadillac, he called it his Cadillac of strollers, not
Mhm.
strollers,
Walkers.
Cadillac of walkers. And it was quite nice. And I
Uh-huh.
saw him, I could see that he had left Heron House. And I was like, okay, how long is this going to take? Not because he was slow, even though he
Uh-huh.
was 101, he wasn't slow. He got stopped. Everybody
Oh yeah,
would
everyone
stop.
wanted.
Hello, Mr. Simon. You don't know me, but I just want to tell you how much
Mhm.
Reston means to me, and I want you to meet my children. And he loved it.
Mhm.
He never got tired. He was such an ambassador, for
One of those might
Reston.
have been me one time. Maybe it was. Oh, I met him one time. Yeah.
What were your impressions of him?
Oh, same thing. Happy. I mean, he was very old when I met him, and he was with his walker, and he was right by at Lake Ann. And I just said, thank you so much for what you did for us. This is a wonderful place to live. It was a brief interaction, but he didn't seem bothered by the attention at all.
No,
Yeah.
he loved it. He wasn't
Yeah.
bothered by it. He loved it. And imagine having people, well, I mean, I don't know how much you know about him, but he was kicked out of Reston before he finished the project.
Oh, yes, I read that in your
Oh,
book.
oh, yeah. So, I mean, that's one thing. I didn't know that he'd even been gone until
Uh-huh.
I met him as an adult and started learning the history. I had no
Mhm.
idea that he hadn't always been here,
Mhm.
but he wasn't. And when he came back, he had a little bit of trepidation. It had been, a good 20 some years, even though he kept in touch with people, and his stepdaughter lived here. So he had plenty of ties here.
Mhm.
But my God, from like the day he got back, I think he used to say, he always had a lunch or dinner companion. People are
Mhm.
always, come on, let's go out to
Mhm.
lunch, let's go out to dinner. He was
Yeah.
welcomed
Yeah.
with open arms and loved hearing from people about how much Reston meant to them.
Yeah. That's great. So, what a treasure these recordings are. Do you have them digitized? Does the museum have them? Like, where are they?
You know what? I'm sitting at my desk and
Mhm.
I think they're under my desk.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't, I'm not the archivist I should be.
Mhm.
They were pretty low quality to begin with,
Yeah.
just being on cassette tapes.
Mhm.
So, no noise reduction or anything. I
Yeah.
don't think the tapes themselves are a real treasure. Um, Parts could be if the quality's good enough.
Yeah.
But no, I've never digitized them. They're
Yeah.
just sitting here labeled with my handwriting.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Um, oh yes. And so the making an impact, you are very well, especially also with your husband involved in the community. Um, Tell me what you do, because I feel like I see you and see your name, and of course Walter's name. What are you doing
What do
in the
I do?
community? Yes.
I guess probably the main thing that I've been doing for the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years is being on the Reston Museum board, the museum and trust board. It's so important to us to preserve the history of Reston, let people know why this is a special place.
Mhm.
That we had a founder, that we have these principles, that they're worth knowing and upholding.
Mhm.
So a lot of my time is devoted to the museum.
Mhm.
One of the things that we do is as bring programs. We have 6 programs a year. And they're always Reston focused. We've had some amazing ones. Last year we had Reston's own Nate Mook, who was instrumental in setting up World Central Kitchen, and
Mhm.
was a documentarian. And he came in. I don't think it was just for us, but he had been working in Ukraine with World Central Kitchen and
Wow.
came, like got on a train to Poland and flew all night and got to the Reston Museum for our presentation. It was pre-scheduled and everything. Eh, The man hadn't slept in days, and here he is just telling the most amazing stories. It was so great. And he talked
Wow.
about how his Reston upbringing really informed his career. He's a documentarian,
Uh-huh.
humanitarian, just doing amazing
Yeah.
things. So that was a great one. We just had one with Zach Oxman, who is
Mhm.
a world-renowned sculptor, and of course, the sculptor of Untold Stories,
Mhm.
affectionately known as Bronze Bob.
Yeah.
That was a great one, just telling the story of how they did it and how they snuck it onto the plaza without Bob knowing. And
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of time devoted to the museum. Of course, we do the cardboard boat regatta every year,
Mhm.
which is a huge community event.
So cool.
It's so fun. I mean, thousands of people come out, and I can't tell you how many people come up to me and just like, thank you for doing this. This is so
Mhm.
great. And
Mhm.
families getting together and schools getting together and clubs getting
Mhm.
together to build their boats and get out there. And the competition is hysterical.
It's really funny.
I mean, who's going to win? You don't know. You might have the most
No.
beautiful boat and it sinks.
Yeah, thanks right away. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of time with the museum. I also volunteer with the RA. I've been doing that for many years,
Hmm.
photographing different events, the
Oh.
um, Halloween
Mm.
spooktacular at
Mhm.
the Nature Center and
Mhm.
um, sporting events, 5Ks.
Mhm.
One thing I love shooting is the dog days that they do
Oh, at the
at the pool.
pools.
Yeah,
Right?
at the
Oh,
pools
yeah.
at the end of the season.
Uh-huh.
Oh
That's
my God, it's the best. It's so fun and it's such a great way. You can't help but meet people when you're out there with the
yeah.
camera, you
Yeah.
know. I just love it. I love being involved in the community.
I do wish I had a dog. And that would be nice.
Do you think
Dogs
you got
are
enough going on?
yeah. Well, I was, you talking all about Reston. I mean, so many people, I've been astounded by how few people even know that Reston was planned. So many people live here and don't
I
know. And
know.
that really is one thing, a reason I wanted to start the paper too, because I lived in Reston. I mean, I'm from Idaho. I lived in Reston. I don't know how long, quite a while before I had any idea the history, before I even knew Lake Ann was there. And I've gotten
Hmm.
emails from readers too, and they said, I didn't know there was a Lake Ann. I live at
I
Town
know.
Center. I had no idea,
I mean, I've been here so long that I can't, it's so hard to imagine, but yeah, I'll talk to somebody, I'll mention the museum, and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, it's at Lake Ann. What's Lake Ann?
Yeah.
What? Where are you? What? I don't,
Yeah.
but it's just so important to us. It's hard to fathom. It's not important to others, but why
Mhm.
would it be? If no
Yeah.
one tells you something is special, although I'm sure
Yeah.
people feel that this place is
Yeah.
special,
Yeah.
you live here, you grow up here, you spend enough time here. I
Mm.
think it starts to kind of rub off on you,
Yeah.
the aesthetics
Mhm.
and the miles of trails, 55 miles of trails and tennis courts and pools and just the natural beauty.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I haven't found any place that compares. A lot of places I go, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm going back to Reston.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I agree. So I also wanted to ask you one more thing. How do you think, say you're a person who just moved here, what is your advice for getting involved in the community? And I know there's people who move here from all over. I saw something, and I don't know that it was a Reston post, but about not knowing where to get plugged in, like a new
Mhm,
young
mhm.
couple.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple ideas.
Okay.
One thing is Facebook helps so much. I've seen so many people join Rest and Remember When.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an admin on that site, so I'm clicking people in.
It's
They'll
so
say
cool.
they'll hop on and it's like, hey guys, tell me where's the best place to get tacos and
Mm-hmm.
where are people meeting up and how do I meet, how do I join a sports team or whatever. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of information to be shared there, and
Yeah.
I find Restonians are very inclusive and they want
Mm-hmm.
people to jump in. I
Yeah.
mean, start out at the Reston Museum, go learn
Mm-hmm.
some history.
Yeah.
You can volunteer there. I was a docent there for a while. Actually, I wrote a lot of the book while I was sitting there because the
Mm.
archives were
Oh, yeah.
right around me. There's just so many volunteer opportunities. Volunteer with the RA,
Mhm.
for 5Ks and sports events. It's such a great way because you're kind of in the trenches with other people, so
Mhm.
you really get to meet
Yeah.
them. And another thing I would recommend is joining the Y
Oh, yeah.
because I mean, I've been a member there since it opened, and I can't tell you how many people I've met who are like, we're new here. And the next thing you know, they've got 20 friends from an exercise
Uh-huh.
It's just welcoming
Uh-huh.
and encouraging. And,
Yeah.
there's just not, there's also Volunteer Fairfax is a way to
Mhm.
find out volunteer opportunities. Of course, as you know well, Food for Neighbors is an
Mhm.
incredible organization. Just go to foodforneighbors.org. You can sign up to either just donate food. They pick it up in the red bag out front of your
Mhm.
house 6 times a year.
Mhm.
Or you can volunteer at the sorting events where all the food's coming in. You meet
Mhm.
so many people there.
Yeah.
It's just jump in. If you
Yeah.
don't like this thing, go do the next thing
Yeah.
because it's out there if you want to find it.
Yes. Very true. Well, thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Kristina. This has been great. Um, maybe I'll see you on a walk soon, as I often do. Um,
Absolutely. And hey, thank you for what you're doing. I think it's
you're
amazing. I think it's right in there with the spirit of Reston and
welcome.
preserving the history, but also having a new way. I remember when I was a kid and even a young adult, when the Reston Times would come out, oh,
Mhm.
who's in there? And you bring
Yeah.
that back in a
Yeah.
really um, really hometown community way. Uh,
Yeah.
I just applaud you for doing it.
Oh, thank you. It's fun. It keeps me working hard, but the feedback like yours and from so many people is what keeps me going, really, is people love it. And
They do. They
yeah,
really do. I mean, I hear about it all the time. So
really. Oh, good.
way to
Yay.
go.
All right, thank you. All right, well, I'm gonna say goodbye for now and thank everybody who joined us on your walk while you were in the tea shop and reading the newspaper and joining us from the QR code. Have a great evening or morning or whatever.
Bye.